Gebet öffnen. Lieber Vater im Himmel, danke, dass wir jetzt dein Wort studieren können. Wir bitten, dass du uns an deine Prinzipien erinnerst und dass du uns helfen wirst, die Wahrheit zu verstehen. Dass wir imstande sind, diese Wahrheit zu empfangen, aber auch zu geben. So, wir bitten um deine Führung und wir suchen dein Segen. In Jesu Namen. Amen.
Right. So, good evening, everybody.
So, guten Abend allerseits.
The notes are in the live stream group.
So, wir haben Notizen in der Livestream-Gruppe.
Alright, so we already looked at this morning, right? From the Sunday law to the final review.
So
it's
haben wir
1260.
bereits heute Morgen angeschaut, die Sonntagsgesetz bis zur finalen Untersuchung ist 1,1260.
Okay, and what would be parallel to this 1260?
Und was ist parallel mit dieser 1260?
What does this word say? Yes, erase this one because.
Was sagt Ellen White, was parallel mit den 1260 ist? Es ist die 70 Jahre Gefangenschaft.
Alright. But also.
Aber auch. Das habe ich nicht.
400 years.
Yes, 400 years in Egypt, right?
Auch die 400 Jahre in Ägypten.
Okay.
4000.
Ah. 4,000 would be a little bit much. So 400 years in Egypt.
400 Jahre in Ägypten.
And at the end of the 400 years, what do we have?
Und am Ende der 400 Jahre, was haben wir?
That's the Passover, right?
Der Passa,
Which would be the cross,
was das Kreuz sein wird.
right? Because if we just look at the reform line, it would be here.
Denn wenn wir die Reformlinien anschauen, die Linie von Christi, das Kreuz wäre hier hinten sein.
So here would be the cross, which would be 1844.
Was auch 1844 sein.
And what happened there
Was geschah da,
when they left Egypt?
als sie Ägypten verließ?
Yes. Yes.
Das
so
Passa.
the firstborn was slain.
Also die Erstgeborenen wurden geschlachtet.
Yes, that's the point I want to come to
Erschlagen.
now.
Und das ist der Punkt, zu dem ich kommen möchte.
But it was also the birth of a nation. Right?
Aber es war auch die Geburt eines Nations.
So we have a birth marked here,
So ein Geburt ist hier markiert.
and this waymark is this waymark.
Und diese Wegmarke, die finale Untersuchung, hier auf der großen Fraktal ist hier.
So we have Passover here
So hier haben wir die Passa
and a birth.
und ein Geburt.
Alright, so now let's go to Exodus chapter 12.
So, lasst uns jetzt in unseren Bibeln zum 2. Buch Mose Kapitel 12 gehen.
And let us read verse 29 to 30.
Und wir lesen die Verse 29 und 30.
And Brother Mark, do you want to read those first, please?
And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne, and to the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead.
Yes. Okay. So when came the angel of death?
Wann kam dieser Engel des Todes?
At midnight.
Mitternacht.
Okay. So it's nice because it nicely ties together these two waymarks. Okay.
Das bindet diese zwei Wegmarken sehr schön zusammen.
Okay. Therefore, it calls it this also here midnight.
Und es nennt das hier denn auch Mitternacht.
So, and this is the slaying of the firstborn.
Das ist der Erschlagen des Erstgeborenen.
So, and we looked at this, I don't know, last time or the time before.
Und wir haben das entweder gestern oder der Tag davor angeschaut.
We looked at the point that there's this great stone cast into the sea. Right?
Wir haben angeschaut, dass dieser große Stein ins Meer geworfen wird.
And who are these two stones that get cast into the sea?
Wer sind diese zwei Steine, die ins Meer geworfen wird?
Babylon in Egypt.
Babylon in Egypt.
Also
Yes.
Babylon und Ägypten.
Okay. So, therefore, 1798 is the punishment on Babylon,
So 1798, das ist die Bestrafung auf Babylon.
and the slaying of the firstborn here is the punishment on Egypt.
Und das Erschlagen des Erstgeborenen, das ist der Bestrafung auf Ägypten.
Okay. So, and lined it here together here at this waymark, which is midnight, which is also then prefigured here at this midnight. Okay.
Sind beide hier an dieser Wegmarke zu sehen, was parallel mit Mitternacht ist, was auf dieser Linie derselbe
Because
zu sehen ist.
my point was that the slaying of the firstborn is midnight.
Also der Erschlagen der Erstgeborenen ist am Mitternacht.
Okay. So now I want to give you two other witnesses, all right,
Zwei weitere Zeugen
to,
möchte ich geben,
to show that this waymark is midnight.
um zu zeigen, dass diese Wegmarke auch Mitternacht ist.
Okay. So in the Millerite line, right,
So
we have
auf
it here
der-
1798 to
Auf der
1844.
Miller-Linie 1798 bis 1844.
What parable did fulfill there?
Welches Gleichnis ist darin erfüllt?
Yes, Matthew 25.
Also Matthäus
The
25,
parable of the 10 virgins.
das Gleichnis der 10 Jungfrauen.
She said it was. Is that what you're going to know?
Yes, okay. So who came here?
So, wer kam hier an?
Right.
Bridegroom.
The bridegroom, right?
Der Bräutigam.
So let us read the second quote in your notes.
So, lasst uns den zweiten Zitat in den Notizen lesen.
GC 426. And Marius, you want to read this for us, please?
The coming of Christ as our high priest to the most holy place for the cleansing of the sanctuary brought to view in Daniel 8:14. The coming of the Son of Man to the Ancient of Days as presented in Daniel 7:13, and the coming of the Lord to his temple foretold by Malachi are descriptions of the same event. And this is also represented by the coming of the bridegroom to the marriage described by Christ in the parable of the 10 virgins of Matthew 25.
Yes. Okay, so back then it represented the coming of the bridegroom here on October 22nd, right?
Also, damals stellte es der Kommen des Bräutigams am 22. Oktober 1844.
Okay. But we'll read now the next quote. There she says it typifies the second coming. Okay.
Aber diese nächste Zitat, die wir lesen werden, sagt, dass das den zweiten Kommen Christi vorausschattet.
Okay, let's read Christ Object Lessons 414.3.
Christi Gleichnisse 4.14.3.
And let us just read the boldfaced.
Und nur das Feld gedrückt.
Philip, you want to read this first?
The coming of the bridegroom was at midnight, in darkest hour. So the coming of Christ will take place in the darkest period of this earth's history.
Okay. So, bridegroom comes.
Also Bräutigam kommt.
And she says the coming of the bridegroom was at
Und sie sagt, das Kommen des Bräutigam
at
Wow.
midnight.
am Mitternacht.
But she says, so the coming of the Son of Man will be at midnight, right?
So auch das Kommen des Menschensohns wird am Mitternacht sein.
And because who's standing here?
Wer steht hier?
John.
John
Johannes.
on Patmos, right?
Auf den Insel Patmos.
And this is what it says, yes, it's the second coming.
Und Ellen White sagt, dass das das zweite Kommen Christi ist.
So it's midnight right here.
So am
Okay.
Mitternacht wieder hier.
So the Lord wants to show us this parallel connection.
Der
Okay.
Herr möchte uns diese Parallelverbindung zeigen.
Okay, so now let's go to the Next quote.
So, nächster Zitat.
Can everybody follow so far?
Kann jeder so weit folgen?
Let's go now to GC 636.
Also große Kamm 636 im Englischen.
Point 2 and 3.
2 und 3.
And before we read this, let's go maybe to Revelation chapter 16.
Und noch bevor wir das lesen, lasst uns zur Offenbarung 16.
And let us read verse 17 to 19.
Und wir lesen die Verse 17 bis 19.
Piero, it's your turn.
And the seventh angel poured out his vial into the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven, from the throne saying, "It is done." And there were voices, and thunders, and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth. So mighty an earthquake, and so great. And the great city was divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell. And great Babylon came in remembrance before God, to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath.
Yes. Okay, so which plague is it?
So, welche Plage ist das?
7, right?
Der 7.
And it says, it is done.
Es sagt, es ist getan.
And
Oder es
this
ist
morning we
vollbracht.
already showed you the 7 plagues in here. Right?
Und heute Morgen haben wir bereits die 7 Plagen hier drin gezeigt.
Then he says, it is done.
Und dann sagt Christus, es ist vollbracht.
So, and now,
When you parallel the Egypt to, which is the Passover, to Christ, the cross,
yes,
it's also the seventh plague because you have the 3 and the 7.
yes.
Also, I didn't quite follow that, sorry.
The Passover here, right?
Also, der Passa hier am Ende.
Which, it's the 10th plague, but it's also the 7th plague.
Ach so, in Ägypten, das wäre dann den 10. Plage, aber hier ist auch der 7. Plage.
Because you have the 3 and the
Weil es
7.
gibt zuerst die 3 Plagen und danach die 7.
So, in this sense, it would be the 7th plague.
So, in diesem Sinne wäre es der 7.
That's what you
Plage.
meant, right?
Yes.
Alright, so so you have here the 7 plagues, and it says then in the 7th, it is done, and a great earthquake takes place. Okay.
Hier haben wir die 7 Plagen und in der 7. Plage steht hier, dass es ist vollbracht und da ist ein großes Erdbeben.
Okay, so earthquake. Alright, so now let's read the quote.
So, lasst uns dieses Zitat lesen.
Whose turn is it? David, you can read please the first one, the first paragraph, and Daniel, you can read the second.
Under which title?
It's the last, the last quote on page 1. It is at midnight. Starts.
It is at midnight that God manifests His power for the deliverance of His people. The sun appears, shining in its strength. Signs and wonders follow in quick succession. The wicked look with terror and amazement upon the scene, while the righteous behold with solemn joy the tokens of their deliverance. Everything in nature seems turned out of its course. The streams cease to flow. Dark, heavy clouds come up and clash against each other. In the midst of the angry heavens is one clear space of indescribable glory, whence comes the voice of God, clear, like the sound of many waters, saying, "It is done."
Then
That voice shakes.
the last quote on page 1.
That voice shakes the heavens and the earth. There is a mighty earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth. So mighty an earthquake and so great. Verse 17 and 18. The firmament appears to open and shut. The glory from the throne God seems flashing through. Mountains shake like a reed in the wind, and ragged rocks are scattered on every side.
Okay, it's actually already enough. Okay, so here we can see that it says it's when does he manifest the power to deliver them?
So, wann manifestiert er den Kraft, zu erlösen?
At midnight.
Am
Okay.
Mitternacht.
And she connects this with the seventh plague, right?
Und sie bringt das in Verbindung mit der 7. Plage.
Okay. And then she also says in the second paragraph, after the bold faced,
Und in der zweiten Absatz, die wir eben gelesen haben, nach der fettgedruckten,
says the firmament appears to open and shut. The glory from the throne of God seems flashing through. So, what do we then also have marked here?
was haben wir hier auch markiert?
The glory, right?
Herrlichkeit.
Because what is it?
Was ist das?
Glorious manifestation.
Yes, it's a glorious manifestation of the power of God.
Das ist eine herrliche Manifestation der Kraft Gottes.
So, it's glory and it's the Passover, it's the deliverance, right?
Das
From
ist die
Egypt.
Herrlichkeit und der Passa markiert auch die Befreiung aus Ägypten.
Okay, and she says here it was midnight that God manifested deliverance for his people.
Und sie sagt hier, dass es Mitternacht war, wo Gott manifestierte der Erlösung seines Volkes.
So, we have 3 witnesses marking midnight right here.
So, wir haben 3 Zeugen, die gerade hier an dieser Wegmarke Mitternacht markieren.
Therefore, it's midnight here, okay?
So, dadurch ist es auch Mitternacht hier.
Alright, so this midnight typifies this midnight.
Und diese Mitternacht schattet diese Mitternacht voraus.
Okay, so now let's go to the next quote.
Nächste Zitat.
Because now I just want to, we already looked at this, but I just want to remind ourselves and just consider this because this might be also part of the prediction. Okay.
Also wir haben das bereits angeschaut, aber ich möchte das in Betracht ziehen, denn möglicherweise ist das hier ein Teil von unserer Vorhersage.
I mean, it's definitely part in the Sunday law crisis,
Also auf jeden Fall ist es ein Teil von unserem Vorhersage in Sonntagsgesetzkrise,
but I have no idea how this would manifest in our time, but we should consider it.
und ich habe keine Ahnung, wie das in unsere Zeit das vorausschatten werden oder manifestieren werden, aber wir sollten das auf jeden Fall anschauen.
Okay, let's read the first quote on page 2,
Erste Zitat auf Seite 2,
4SP 192.
4 SP 192 in Englisch.
Do you feel comfortable? Okay, then tell me about this.
The same master spirit that urged in the massacre of San Bartholomew, led also in the scenes of the French Revolution. Satan seemed to triumph, notwithstanding the labors of the reformers, yet succeeded in holding vast multitudes in ignorance concerning God and His Spirit.
Okay, stop here. What is she tying together here?
Was bindet sie hier miteinander? Was verknüpft sie?
Revolution of St. Bartholomew's Massacre.
Exactly, right?
Also die französische Revolution und der Massaker von St. Bartholomäus.
And according to Revelation 11, right, we understand the French Revolution is marked here.
Und
Right?
gemäß Offenbarung 11, die französische Revolution ist hier markiert.
So, French Revolution. But it's also Saint
Bartholomäus.
Bartholomew. New Massacre. Okay. Continue, please.
Weiter. So, seem to try.
Now he appeared in the New Guys, I think.
Now he appeared in a new guise. In France, arousing atheistical power that openly declared war against the authority of heaven, men who all of all restraint. The law of God was tramped underfoot. Those who could engage in the most heaven-daring blasphemy and the most abominable wickedness were most highly exalted. Fornication was sanctioned by law. Profanity and corruption seemed deluging the earth. In all this, supreme homage was paid to Satan, while Christ, in his characteristics of truth, purity, and unselfish love, was crucified. The Bible was publicly burned. The Sabbath was blotted out. Romanism had enjoined image worship. Now divine honors were paid to the vilest objects. The work which the papacy had begun, atheism completed. The one withheld from the people the proofs of the Bible, the other taught them to reject both the Bible and its author. The seed sown by priests and prelates was yielding its evil fruit.
Okay, so just explains here the French Revolution.
So, erklärt die französische Revolution.
And now let's go to the next quote,
So, jetzt zur nächste Zitat.
because now she speaks about the Saint Bartholomew Massacre.
Jetzt spricht sie über den St. Bartholomäus-Massaker.
Okay, who's turn is it? Shit.
But blackest in the black catalogue of crime, most horrible among the fiendish deeds of all the dreadful centuries was the St. Bartholomew massacre. The world still recalls with shuddering horror the scenes of that most cowardly and cruel onslaught. The King of France, urged on by Romish priests and prelates, lent his sanction to the dreadful work. A bell tolling at dead of night was a signal for the slaughter. Protestants, by thousands sleeping quietly in their homes, trusting to the plighted honor of their king, were dragged forth without a warning and murdered in cold blood.
I'll just read the next boldface also.
As Christ was the invisible leader of his people from Egypt's bondage, so was Satan the unseen leader of his subjects in this horrible work of multiplying martyrs. For 7 days the massacre was continued in Paris, the first 3 with inconvincible fury.
Conceivable.
Okay, thank you. So we see when the St. Bartholomew Massacre comes,
So, wir können sehen, dass wenn diese Massaker von St. Bartholomäus kommt,
because it's at midnight cry when you come face to face with death, right?
es ist an der Mitternachtsruf, wo wir von der Angesicht des Todes ankommen.
Yeah. What was before in place?
Was war zuvor im Platz? Peace.
Yes, right?
Frieden.
So there was this time of peace,
Es gab diese Zeit des Friedens.
and why?
Und warum?
Because the king had decreed that to give them this little space, and they came down and
Yes, exactly.
came into the towns.
Weil der König hat ein Dekret erlassen, sie diese Art Amnestie zu erlassen oder diese Frieden zu erlassen.
Okay, so the king gave a pledge that they would be protected.
Also der König hat ein Versprechen gegeben, dass die beschützt werden.
But we understand this is a time of trouble.
Aber wir verstehen, dass das hier eine Zeit des Trübsals ist.
So this is a time of persecution.
Eine Zeit des Verfolgungs.
But this is 1798. Right?
Aber das hier ist aus 1798.
So therefore we understand the papacy will receive a check here.
So wir verstehen, dass der Papst hier im Zuge gehalten wird.
Okay. So because this must somehow typify this deadly wound here.
Denn das hier muss auf irgendeine Art diese tödliche Wunde vorausschatten.
Okay. Therefore papacy checked.
Also der Papst im Zuge gehalten.
And we understand this is also Jeremiah 37,
Wir verstehen, dass es auch Jeremia 37,
where the king or the Chaldeans haste away because of the king of the south, right?
die Chaldäer wegflüchten wegen Ägypten, wegen der König des Südens, der in Anmarsch ist.
Okay, so my point is
Also mein Punkt damit wäre,
is that this is clearly seen at the Sunday law crisis, right? That there is like a check placed on the papacy here.
Es ist klar in der Sonntagsgesetzkrise gesehen, dass hier der Papst gezügelt wird.
And among other things, what is one of the reasons why the papacy is checked here?
Und unter andere Sachen, was ist einer der Gründe, warum der Papst hier im Zuge gehalten wird?
No, in the Sunday law crisis.
In der Sonntagsgesetzkrise. The South rising up against.
Or to give time for I mean, I don't know what you mean by your question, but to give time for the message to go forward.
Yes,
Also
okay.
Zeit für die Botschaft, dass die Botschaft vorangehen kann.
Yes. But I was more tending in his
Okay,
direction.
that's-
Okay. Because the south rises up here.
Also weil der Süden kommt gegen den König des Nordens hier auf.
And what do the kings make here?
Und was machen die Könige hier? Was Bündnis,
As a league, right?
League, ein Bündnis.
So, and we looked at these two kinds of leagues.
Und wir haben diese zwei Arten von Bündnis angeschaut,
Because here they make also a league, right?
weil hier machen sie auch ein Bündnis.
How do we know where do we find the league here at the Sunday law?
Wo finden wir hier das Bündnis am Sonntagsgesetz?
Yes, for instance, 1848.
1848 zum Beispiel.
Yes.
Im Psalm 83.
Yes.
Psalm 83. Die
Yes.
Könige sind
Revelation 17.
And yes.
und Offenbarung 17.
So what is the difference between this league and this league?
Das ist der Unterschied zwischen diesem Bund und diesem Bund.
One has a woman sitting in it,
One
the
has
other
a
one
baby.
doesn't.
Yes.
Einer hat den Papst oder die Frau, die darauf sitzt, und der andere ist ohne den Papst.
So this is plus the woman,
Also diese Bündnis ist mit der Frau zusammen
and this is without the woman. Right?
und diese hier am Mitternacht ist ohne.
And according to Revelation 18, what is she responsible of?
Und gemäß Offenbarung 18, für was ist die Frau verantwortlich? Every war.
All the war, all the death, everything.
Yes.
Also jeder Krieg.
But let's remind ourselves. Let's go to Isaiah 23.
Aber lasst uns daran erinnern, gehen wir zu Jesaja 23.
And let's read verse 15 to 16.
Jesaja 23, die Verse 15 und 16.
Susie, I think it's your turn. Isaiah 23, verse 15 to 16.
And it shall come to pass in that day that Tyre shall be forgotten 70 years, according to the days of one king. After the end of 70 years shall Tyre sing as an harlot. Take an harp, go about the city, that thou harlot that hast been forgotten, makes sweet melodies, sing many songs, that thou mayst be remembered.
Okay, so now we understand this is 1798,
So, wir verstehen, das ist 1798 hier
and that's the 70 years.
und das ist die 70 Jahre.
It's obviously a different 70 years from that.
So, natürlich eine andere 70 Jahre als das hier.
And here the papacy is forgotten, right?
Und hier ist der Papst vergessen.
So here also the woman will be forgotten for this time.
So hier auch, die Frau wird in dieser Zeit vergessen.
And it says here at the end of the 70 years she will sing.
Und
Right.
am Ende von 70 Jahren, sie wird wieder singen.
But in verse 16
Aber im Vers 16
it says, Take an harp, go about the city, thou harlot that hast been forgotten. Make sweet melody, sing many songs that thou mayest be remembered. So if I read it correctly, maybe I'm reading it incorrectly.
So, wenn ich das richtig lese, und vielleicht lese ich es nicht richtig,
She will sing here at the end of the 70 years,
sie werde hier am Ende der 70 Jahre
but
singen,
also she sings during the 70 years that she might be remembered at the end of the 70
aber
years.
sie singt während dieser 70 Jahren so, dass am Ende sie erinnert wird.
Yes.
We also,
Amen.
okay.
Yes.
So, therefore, she sings here in this time when she's kicked off the beast.
So, wenn sie hier vom Tier runtergestoßen wird, sie singt die ganze Zeit hier, damit sie hier erinnert wird.
So, in this sense, this is her work of deception that goes on behind the scenes. Okay?
In diesem Sinne, das ist ihre verführerische Werk, die hinter die Kulissen abspielt in dieser Zeit.
And that's what we already looked at, right? That when she gets a check here,
Und das haben wir bereits angeschaut, dass wenn sie hier gezügelt wird,
everybody thinks, alright, that's it, okay.
alle denken so, das ist das Ende mit sie.
But suddenly she manifests herself here. Right?
Aber plötzlich und unerwartet, sie manifestiert sich hier wieder.
In the St. Bartholomew's Massacre.
In der St. Bartholomäus Massaker.
So, and this is what we really must get.
Und das ist das, was wir wahrlich verstehen müssen hier.
Because this comes suddenly and unexpected.
Weil das hier kommt auf uns zu, plötzlich und unerwartet.
So everything will look like it's a time of peace here.
So, alles wird so ansehen, als wäre das hier eine Zeit des Friedens.
And that it will be a long time after that she will come back, or maybe never. Okay.
Und es wird lange Zeit noch, bevor sie wiederkommt, oder sogar vielleicht gar nicht.
But suddenly she will be there, and she will come with bringing the death decree against you. Okay.
Aber plötzlich wird sie da sein mit dem Todesdekret gegen uns anbringen.
You can, remember I spoke to you about earlier, you can take that quote because you marked it at the beginning, the two stones was Egypt and Babylon, right?
Also der Zitat, diese zwei Steine am Anfang, Ägypten und Babylon ins Meer.
And you were marking the Passover there is when they come out of Egypt.
Und der Passa, wenn sie aus Ägypten rauskommen.
Yes.
Remember that quote? It says that they fear and they let them go, but afterwards they would sort of repent and then they come fleeing after them. So it shows you that this is.
Also die Ägypter, die haben Furcht und die lassen Gottes Volk gehen, aber nach einer gewissen Zeit, sie kehren sich von ihrer Entscheidung um und eilen sie nach.
Yes, exactly.
Is the destroyer coming?
Es ist der Zerstörer, der auf die Fersen ist.
Exactly. Okay, so basically when we would bring this down here,
Also wenn wir diese Ereignisse hier runterbringen,
so you come out of Egypt here,
kommen aus Ägypten hier,
and the Egyptians will pursue after you, right?
dann die Ägypter werden hinter uns hereilen,
Which is the destroyer, which is hot on your heels.
was der Bluträcher ist, der heiß auf unsere Fersen ist.
And when you come here, where do you come?
Und wenn
In
wir
this
hier
illustration.
ankommen, wo kommen wir
Yes.
an? Wir kommen
Right.
in den Roten Meer.
So to the Red Sea.
It's the chasm.
Es ist der Kluft.
Exactly, right? So that would be marking then this trial of your faith.
Das wäre Markieren der Versuchung oder der Probe unseres Glaubens.
Okay, and that's the chasm experience.
Das ist der Klufterfahrung.
Okay.
Sister White also in First Testimonies, she takes that story and she says basically after this first time of trouble, then the Israelites came to the Red Sea where their hearts failed them for fear.
Yes.
Also Ellen White nimmt diese Geschichte und sie sagt nach der ersten Zeit des Trübsals, wenn sie zum Roten Meer ankommen, dass ihrem Herzen versagen vor Furcht.
Right. So hearts fail for fear.
Hier markieren wir die Herzen, die vor Furcht versagen.
And this is when we go just to look at this again. Let's go to Luke 21.
Wenn wir das nochmal anschauen in der Bibel, in Lukas 21.
And let's read verse 25 to 26.
Die Verse 25 und 26. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so here we see that man's hearts fail them for fear.
So, hier können wir sehen, dass die Menschenherzen sich vor Furcht versagen.
And it's the shaking of the heavens and earth.
Und dass auch die Erschütterung der Himmel und Erde sind.
Okay. So One final thought.
Ein letzter Gedanke.
Because that's actually the point I want to focus now a little bit on.
Aber das hier ist der Punkt, auf den ich etwas eingehen möchte.
Because this might be somehow a part of the prediction.
Denn
Okay.
das mag möglicherweise ein Teil von unserer Vorhersage sein.
Because the papacy get checked here, and so somehow the king made here a pledge to protect God's people.
So
Okay.
irgendwie, weil der Papst hier im Zuge gehalten wird, der König macht ein Versprechen, Gottes Volk zu beschützen. Hier.
So somehow the state's power makes a decree to protect God's people.
So irgendwie hier, der Staatsmacht macht ein Dekret oder ein Gesetz, Gottes Volk zu schützen.
State power. Okay. Just come a nice quote to my mind.
Und ich habe gerade ein etwas schönes Zitat, der in meinen Gedanken gekommen ist.
I will find it.
Ich hoffe, dass ich das jetzt finden kann.
It's in Prophets and Kings.
Das sind Propheten und Könige.
It's this quote, maybe one of you knows where it is,
Vielleicht weiß jemand, wo das ist.
where it speaks about this decree of Cyrus,
Spricht über den Dekret von Kyros,
that they then had this I don't know, this most favorable time or circumstances.
dann dadurch hatten sie den allergünstigsten Umständen.
Ah, here. Yeah, got it. PK 572.
So, das ist jetzt in der Livestream.
Okay, maybe I repost this because I want to have the paragraph before also.
You reposted it?
Mhm.
Also es kommt nochmal in den Livestream, weil es fehlt etwas, auch das erste Mal.
Good. So, it says here, while Satan was striving to influence the highest powers in the kingdom of Medo-Persia, to show disfavor to God's people, angels worked in behalf of the exiles. The controversy was one in which all heaven was interested. Through the prophet Daniel, we are given a glimpse of this mighty struggle between the forces of good and the forces of evil. For 3 weeks, Gabriel wrestled with the powers of darkness, seeking to counteract the influences at work on the mind of Cyrus. And before the contest closed, Christ himself came to Gabriel's aid. So that's right here, right? When Michael comes down.
Das ist gerade hier, wo Michael kommt herein.
Okay. So, yes, the second coming of Christ.
Zweite Kommen Christi.
And then it says, the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days, Gabriel declares, but lo, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, and I remained there with the kings of Persia. All that heaven could do in behalf of the people of God was done. The victory was finally gained. The forces of the enemy were held in check all the days of Cyrus and all the days of his son Cambyses, who reigned about 7.5 years. Okay, so what did take place here?
So was fand hier statt? Forces of evil were held in check.
Yes, okay.
Also die Kräfte des Bösen wurden gezügelt.
So, and we looked at this quote, right?
Und wir haben diesen Zitat angeschaut.
When the pioneers wrote about the First and the Second World War,
Also die Pioniere, als sie über das Erste und Zweite Weltkriege geschrieben haben.
what did they say? What was to take place here at the end of the First World War?
Was haben sie gesagt? Was soll hier am Ende der Ersten Weltkrieg stattfinden?
Nations are angry yet held in check so as not to prevent the work of the third angel.
Amen.
Die
Yes.
Nationen sind zornig, aber im Zuge gehalten, sodass sie das Werk des dritten Engels nicht behindern.
And at that time, the latter rain
Lot of rain.
is poured out,
Und zu
right?
dieser Zeit der Spätregen wurde ausgegossen,
Okay, which is the baptism of Christ.
was die Taufe Christi auch ist.
Okay, so I'm not denying that this quote also applies to here. Okay,
Also das Zitat ist auch hier anzuwenden.
Revelation 18, beginning and the end.
but here we see, all right, 4 winds held in check.
Hier können wir sehen, die 4 Winde werden im Zuge gehalten.
I'm gonna add a quote.
Okay.
Also ein weiteres Zitat kommt.
Directly to this thought.
Yeah.
Okay, because as long as it doesn't lead away from this thought,
No,
you can bring it in.
Links.
Okay.
Pentecost with the baptism together.
Okay. Yes. All right. Do you translate it, or shall I quickly translate? Okay. Then go ahead.
Christ's ascension to heaven was a signal that his followers were to receive the promised blessing. For this they were to wait before they entered upon the world. When Christ passed within the heavenly gates, he was enthroned amidst the admiration of the angels. As soon as this ceremony was completed, the Holy Spirit descended upon the disciples in rich currents, and Christ was indeed glorified, even with the glory which he had with the Father from all eternity. The Pentecostal outpouring was heaven's communication that the Redeemer's inauguration was accomplished according to his promise. He had sent the Holy Spirit from heaven to his followers as a token that he, as priest and king, received all authority in heaven and on earth, and was the anointed one of his people.
Oh, it's yes, exactly. Okay, so maybe you want to elaborate your thought?
No, it's basically telling you that when Pentecost, right, comes, that's basically the point where Christ was anointed. You know.
Also wo Pfingsten kommt, das markiert der Punkt, wo Christus gesalbt
And
wurde.
it's also the baptism where he was
Becomes the anointed.
the anointed one,
Das
right?
ist auch der Taufe hier, wo Christus der Gesalbte.
And also when Cyrus became the anointed one, then the winds or the forces were held in check.
Das ist auch Kyros, als er hier der Gesalbte ist, ist, wo die 4 Winde gezügelt waren,
Yes.
Right?
Amen.
In order that the temple can be built.
Yes.
sodass der Tempel wieder gebaut werden konnte.
So, which was from 1798 to October 22nd.
Was von 1798 bis 1844 war.
Yes. Yes. Amen. That's a nice quote. Nice thought. Okay. Alright. So when we come back to the quote we just read earlier here from PK.
So, wenn wir zurück zu den Zitaten, die wir halb durchgelesen haben vom Propheten Könige.
So we ended at the first paragraph, right?
So, wir haben den ersten Absatz gelesen,
Where we could see that here these forces of evil were held in check.
wo wir sehen konnten, dass diese Kräfte des Bösen in Züge gehalten worden sind.
So therefore this is also here at midnight,
Das
okay,
ist auch hier am Mitternacht,
that now the papacy is checked.
dass der Papst gezügelt wird.
And it's also because of this leak and this pledge that the king will do for the God's people.
Es ist auch wegen dieses Bündnis und dieses Versprechen oder dieses Gesetz, die der König für Gottes Volk einsetzen wird.
Okay, because it says here
Denn
in
es
the next
sagt
paragraph,
in dem nächsten Absatz,
this was a time of wonderful opportunity for the Jews. Now, so this time we will enter here in this little time of peace. It's a time of wonderful opportunity for us.
also diese Zeit, in der wir hier hineingehen, es ist eine Zeit von wunderbares Gelegenheit für uns.
Okay. The highest agencies of heaven were working on the hearts of kings. Okay. So that's why the kings will make this pledge to protect you here.
Deswegen die Könige werden diesen Bündnis, um uns zu beschützen hier, weil Engel auf ihrem Herzen arbeiten.
And it was for the people of God to labor with the utmost activity to carry out the decree of Cyrus. Right? That's this quote where Sister White says, the work that we should have done in a time of peace and opportunity, we must not do under the most discouraging circumstances.
Das markiert dieses Zitat, wo Ellen White sagt, das Werk, die wir in einer Zeit des Friedens hätte tun sollen, wir müssen jetzt in den schrecklichsten und unmöglichsten Umständen vollziehen.
So this will be a wonderful opportunity, right?
Das hier wird eine wunderbare Gelegenheit für uns.
God will provide everything that we need, and we just must not forget God in this time.
Gott wird uns alles geben, was wir brauchen. Wir sind nur ermahnt, ihm in dieser Zeit nicht zu vergessen.
Like Haggai, and start building our own houses instead of the house of the Lord.
So wie in das Buch Haggai, wo wir fingen an, unsere eigenen Häuser zu bauen und zu beschmücken anstelle des Tempel des Herrn.
Okay.
Haus
So
des Herrn.
this was a time of wonderful opportunity for the Jews. The highest agencies of heaven were working on the hearts of kings, and it was for the people of God to labor with the utmost activity to carry out the decree of Cyrus. They should have spared no effort to restore the temple and its services, and to re-establish themselves in the Judean homes. But in the day of God's power, many proved unwilling. The opposition of the enemies was strong and determined, and gradually the builders lost heart. So what does this remind you of?
So, woran erinnert uns das?
Nehemiah.
On the narrow way.
Yes, exactly.
So, auf dem schmalen Weg, die haben nicht gedacht, dass der Herr so lange dauern wird.
Because what is this waymark in the reform lines?
Denn auf der Reformlinie, was ist diese Wegmarke? Die Enemies.
Yes, the enemies, right?
Also es ist der Werk der Feinde Gottes.
So, and it says here the enemies were bitterly opposing them,
Und es steht hier, dass die Feinde haben sie bitter widerstanden.
and then basically some grew weary.
Und einige von Gottes Volk sind ermüdet. That would also
And
be
then they fall off in this test here.
and die fallen weg in diesen Test. I mean, this is 1798 to 1844, the rebuilding of the temple, and it's also the 3 decrees, and that would also mark false smerdes then, in that sense. Would that be wrong? For Mark and Cyrus here, then,
Why false matters?
because that's the work of the enemies.
No,
False marriage is not in the part
it
of the
is
3 decrees.
there, but why do you link it to the 3 decrees? Is my question.
Why do I think it's the 3 decrees?
No,
Because,
why do you link false murders to the 3 decrees?
because it's in the reform line of the 3 decrees, that's all. And it's the work of the enemies, that's all.
I mean, he's marked there, that's for sure, but it's when you take the whole line. It's just when you said this is the 3 decrees and this is then false matters. So I
No, I
just
think
asked what you think.
If that's 1798 to 1844, which is the rebuilding of the temple, then it's a question I'm asking, would that be then the 3 decrees, and would that then be the work of the enemies, false murders? That was, I was asking a question more than making a statement.
No,
I don't know. We can look at this more fully. But let's just continue with the thought here.
Also weiter jetzt mit dem Zitat.
Okay, but in the day of God's power, many proved unwilling. The opposition of the enemies was strong and determined, and gradually the builders lost heart. Some could not forget the scene of the laying of the cornerstone, when many had given expression to their lack of confidence in the enterprise. And as the Samaritans grew more bold, many of the Jews questioned whether after all, the time had come to rebuild. The feeling soon became widespread. Many of the workmen, discouraged and disheartened, returned to their homes to take up the ordinary pursuits of life. Okay, so shows, alright, that we're tempted in a time of peace not to do the work that we should do. Okay.
Also es zeigt uns klar, dass in dieser Zeit des Friedens wir werden versucht werden, das Werk, die wir tun sollen, zu lassen.
Okay. And
But I was thinking about this today also. It shows that even though Satan is locked up, I mean, he's still in some ways doing a work there.
Yes,
He just
for
can't do he can't do the persecuting work he was doing
yes,
before.
yes,
But he's tormenting you. He's
yes,
you know with these I don't know how to explain.
yes, yes.
So, obwohl Satan in Ketten ist in dem Sinne, obwohl er uns nicht denselben Werk tun kann, er quält uns dennoch damit in dieser Zeit.
So he cannot actively persecute us, right, using the state power, but he can send
Discouragement.
align. Is this a word? Align you?
Allein.
I don't
It
know.
is a word, but it's not what I would use.
Okay. Maybe it's just one word I have in my mind. But
Also er kann uns nicht verfolgen wie durch den Staatsmächten, aber der kann auf jeden Fall align you. You've got me now.
doesn't matter. I would only.
Er kann uns entmutigen.
Yes. Okay. No, that's not the word I wanted to use.
No.
Okay, doesn't matter. He can, in a sense, prick us and how can you say? I know what I want to say, but I'm missing the word. Okay.
Er kann auf jeden Fall uns auf die Nerven gehen.
Yeah. Okay. So therefore, something at least at the Sunday law crisis, but somehow it should be typified here, right?
Also irgendetwas definitiv am Sonntagsgesetzkrise, aber das soll hier in diese Zeit vorausgeschattet sein.
So
2014, 2016 und unsere Mitternacht.
So somehow there might be something done by the kings that proves favorable for God's cause in this.
So, irgendetwas wird in unserer Zeit hier getan werden von den Königen, die für Gottes Volk zur Vorteil fällt.
Maybe something strengthening religious freedom or whatever, I don't know.
So, irgendetwas, was religiöse Freiheit unterstützt oder was ähnliches, weiß ich nicht.
Yeah, that would be my question, because if we don't have a Sunday law, so if they make a league with the kings to protect, what would be the cause?
Also wenn wir kein Sonntagsgesetz haben in unserer Zeit und die machen ein Bündnis, um Gottes Volk zu beschützen, was wäre denn der Ursache von diesem Bündnis und dieses Gesetz, Gottes Volk zu schützen?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, for instance, that's not just speculation, okay?
Also das ist jetzt keine Spekulation.
No, what I'm doing is just not speculation.
Also was ich jetzt tue, ist reine Spekulation.
But it's just a thought how it could come, you know.
Aber es ist ein Gedanke, wie es vielleicht zustande kommen
In a
konnte.
sense, you have a strike by Islam here.
So, wenn es einen Anschlag von den Islam hier gäbe,
It will be again a religious debate.
es wird wieder eine religiöse Debatte aufkommen.
And the 10 kings is the United Nations,
Und
right?
die 10 Könige, das ist die UNO.
And they all claim, yeah, you need to have religious freedom.
Und die alle behaupten, dass religiöse
Equality.
Freiheit ist Grundgesetz der Menschheit.
And equality and all this.
So, Gleichheit,
Human rights,
also
okay.
Menschenrechte.
So maybe that's some things that they will then take as pretense, okay, to protect religious freedom or whatever.
Das wäre vielleicht einige Sachen, die Sie in der Hand nehmen, um religiöse Freiheit zu
But
beschützen.
as I said, I have no idea. Okay,
Aber wie schon bereits gesagt, an dieser
just-
Stelle habe ich keine Ahnung.
it's just marked here in the Sunday law crisis, and how it's being typified here at midnight, I have no idea.
Also das hier alles ist markiert in der Sonntagsgesetzkrise, aber wie das in unserer Zeit am Mitternacht markiert werde oder vorausgeschattet werde, ich weiß nicht.
Yeah, I've just got a part of Christ's temptation in the wilderness. He was in the wilderness for 40 days, but this quote here I've posted it, shows that you're tempted through that 40 days.
Also Christus würde versucht 40 Tage lang, am Ende von den 40 Tagen in der Wüste, aber ich habe ein Zitat gepostet, wo es zeigt, dass er die ganze Zeit durch diese 40 Tage hindurch versucht worden war.
Okay, you want to read this first?
It says, when Jesus entered the wilderness, that would be at midnight.
Yes.
Also wenn Jesus in die Wüste hineinginge, und das wäre dann hier am Mitternacht,
When you come out of Egypt, you
wenn er aus Ägypten herauskommt.
It's not. That's the one that it gave me out of the German.
I don't know, but it says something.
Okay. Is it the one above it?
No.
No.
No,
No,
not
just,
this
okay.
one sec.
I think Daniel posted it now.
Yes.
Okay, so that. Okay. Yeah, it was the one above it. I don't know why it gave me that one.
Also es ist der Zitat, die Daniel eben gepostet hat im Deutschen.
Okay, it says, when Jesus entered the wilderness, he was shut in by the Father's glory. Absorbed in communion with God, he was lifted above human weakness. But the glory departed, and he was left to battle with temptation. It was pressing upon him every moment. His human nature shrank away from the conflict that awaited him. For 40 days he fasted and prayed, weak and emaciated from hunger, worn and haggard with mental agony. His visage was so marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men. Now was Satan's opportunity. Now he supposed that he could overcome Christ. So, when those people there in this time period, they go forward to rebuild, they begin to come weary because Satan is constantly harassing them, you know, the whole time, and people become wearied with it rather than just realizing that he can't do anything, just go forward and do the work in faith.
Also in diese Zeit, als sie vorangingen, um den Tempel wieder zu bauen, Satan hat sie die ganze Zeit gehadert. Und anstelle einfach mal im Glauben festzustellen, dass Satan sie gar nichts anhaben könnte, sie sind ermattet und ermüdet geworden.
Yes. Right. Yes. So can already see that the little time of peace won't be a time without temptation. Okay.
Wir können jetzt schon bereits sehen, dass der kleine Zeit des Friedens nicht ein Zeit wird ohne Versuchung.
Okay. Just shows that you can fulfill God's work by faith in a way that it will definitely come to pass.
Es zeigt nur, dass wir Gottes Werk durch Glaube erfüllen kann, so wie es auf jeden Fall zustande kommen wird.
Okay, so maybe the last thoughts. Okay.
Also vielleicht die letzten Gedanken.
Because what do we have marked here or here after the test? Let's say, for instance, in Daniel chapter 3.
So in Daniel 3, nach der Test, was haben wir hier, aber auch hier in der
What does King
Finaluntersuchung
Nebuchadnezzar
markiert?
do? A counter decree. Okay.
Was tut König Nebukadnezar? Er gibt ein Gegendekret.
Okay. So therefore we have a counter decree here.
So, denn dementsprechend hier in der Finaluntersuchung haben wir auch ein Gegendekret.
In 1798, who comes up?
1798, wer kommt herauf?
United States, right?
USA.
So and it's the earth swallowing up the flood.
Und den USA, das ist der Erde, die den Flut verschlingt.
It's this counter decree.
Das
Okay.
ist diese Gegendekret.
So you can clearly see all these illustrations show that God's people will be protected.
So, alle diese Darstellungen zeigen, dass hier an dieser Wegmarke das Gottes Volk beschützt wird.
And we have many witnesses to show this leak here.
Und wir haben viele Zeugen, um diese Bündnis hier zu zeigen.
But we have at least as many witnesses to show this counter decree here.
Aber
Okay.
wir haben genauso viele Zeugen, um diese Gegendekret hier zu zeigen.
So for instance, Daniel 6, he gets delivered from the lions. Then
Daniel 6, er wird von Löwengrube befreit.
the French Revolution.
Französische Revolution.
It's after 3.5 days they put the Bible back in place. Right?
Nach 3,5 Tagen, die stellen die Bibel wieder auf.
And what else?
Was noch?
Counter decree in Esther.
Also das Gegendekret im Buch Esther.
Maybe let's just finish with this thought, okay?
Vielleicht gerade mit dieser Gedanke sollen wir
Let's
schließen.
go to the book of Esther.
Lasst uns zum Buch Esther gehen.
Let's go to chapter 8
in Kapitel 8
and verse 5.
und Vers 5.
So, or verse 4 and 5.
Die Verse 4 und 5.
Then the king held out the golden scepter toward Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king, and said, If it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seen right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews which are in all the king's provinces. So it's now the reversal of the death decree. Okay.
Es ist der Umdrehung des Todesdekrets.
And then it says here, when it took effect, let's go down to verse 15 to 17.
Verse 15 bis 17.
So marks this counter decree.
So,
Okay.
es markiert diese Gegendekret.
It says, And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal apparel of blue and white, and with a great crown of gold, and with a garment of fine linen and purple, and the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad. So, what does it represent?
So, was stellt es dar?
Deliverance of Joshua.
Yes.
Also die Befreiung Josuas.
It's basically this crowning, the triumphal entry.
Also diese
Krönung.
Krönung, also die
Krönung.
Krönung. Krönung und der triumphale Einzug.
And it's this joy is experienced to God's people, right? Because
Und diese freudige Erfahrung für Gottes Volk.
it says 16, the Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor.
Vers 16.
And in every province, in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day. And many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them. So what will therefore happen in this time here?
So, was wird hier in dieser Zeit stattfinden?
Fear comes upon them.
Yes, the fear comes upon them, and then many of the people join, become
Also
Jews.
Furcht kommt über das Volk und viele von das Volk werden Juden.
Isaiah 2, they come up to the mountain of the Lord, they
Exactly.
flock to it.
Yes, exactly.
Isaiah 2, did you say?
Yes.
Also Jesaja 2, viele kommen zum Berg des Herrn, die strömen daher.
Okay, it shows us that at midnight many people will join this movement.
So,
Okay,
es zeigt uns, dass am Mitternacht viele werden sich diese Bewegung anschließen.
just like August 11th, 1840,
Genauso wie im 11. August 1840
or 9/11.
oder
The
11.
mixed
September.
multitude join.
Exactly.
Also die vermengte Menge,
Or when they come out of Egypt, the mixed multitude joined them. Okay.
wenn sie aus Ägypten herauskommen, also diese große Menge, diese vermengte Menge, schließen sich Gottes Volk an.
Just the second witness to this, and then we close
Ein zweites Zeugnis dazu, dann werden wir schließen
with a summary.
mit einer Zusammenfassung.
Acts chapter 9.
In Apostelgeschichte Kapitel 9
And let's read verse 31.
und Vers 31.
It says, Acts 9:31. Then had the churches rest throughout all Judea and Galilee and Samaria, and were edified, and walking in the fear of the Lord and in the comfort of the Holy Ghost were multiplied. Okay? So when the church has this time of rest here,
Also wenn die Gemeinde diese Zeit des Ruhe hier hat,
it says they were comforted by the Holy Ghost because it's poured out, right?
also die würden getrostet durch den Heiligen Geist, den hier ausgegossen wird.
And what happened to them also?
Und was ist auch noch mit ihnen geschehen?
Were multiplied, okay?
Die wurden vermehrt.
Many of the people of the land became Jews.
Viele des Volkes des Landes wurden Juden.
Okay. So, multiplied. Okay, to sum up,
Und um zusammenzufassen,
so we can see that when we enter this little time of peace here,
sodass wir sehen können, dass wenn wir in diese kleine Zeit des Friedens
the
hineinkommen,
Lord will restrain the evil forces for us.
der Herr werden die Kräfte des Bösen zurückhalten, unseretwillen.
He will work upon the hearts of the kings and give us a favorable time.
Er wird auf den Herzen der Könige arbeiten und uns eine Zeit des Gunstes geben.
And many people will join this movement,
Und viele werden diesen Bewegungen anschließen.
and we need to really do the work that we are commanded to do here
Und
and
wir
not grow weary.
müssen den Werk, die wir befohlen zu tun, in dieser Zeit tun und nicht ermüden.
And because the midnight cry will then come suddenly and unexpected.
Und dieser Mitternachtsruf wird plötzlich und unerwartet auf uns einströmen.
And if we rest upon this decree that the state powers make here at midnight,
Und wenn wir auf diese Dekret ausruhen, die den Staatsmächten hier am Mitternacht erlassen,
then this will overcome us as the thief in the night.
denn das wird uns wie ein Dieb in der Nacht überwältigen.
Okay, so it's therefore very important to take heed to these things.
Es ist sehr wichtig, dass wir diese Dinge sehr achtsam
And we also
betrachten.
saw, we have 3 witnesses showing that this waymark is tied together with midnight.
Und wir haben auch gesehen, dass wir 3 Zeugen hier gestellt haben, dass diese Wegmarke der finale Untersuchung ist mit Mitternacht verbunden.
We had the slaying of the firstborn at midnight.
Also der Erschlagen des Erstgeborenen am Mitternacht,
We had the deliverance under the 7th plague at midnight.
die Befreiung unter der 7. Plage war auch am Mitternacht
And the coming of the bridegroom at midnight.
und das Kommen der Bräutigam am Mitternacht.
Okay. And therefore, what we need to more fully study out is in what way is this pledge of the kings also marked here at our time at midnight.
Wir müssen für uns hier, für unsere Zeit am Mitternacht ausstudieren, was diese Versprechen der Könige für uns bedeutet hier.
Okay, so because this might be part of the prediction.
Denn das mag vielleicht ein Teil von unserer Vorhersage sein.
Okay, amen.
Amen.
Okay, then let's close for this evening.
Lasst uns für heute Abend schließen.